Good evening.
Hi, Miss Blinny.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing good. I'm
Good
doing
evening, everyone. Welcome to the very first, our 12-week summer series, What Happened to You? It's based upon the book written by Oprah Winfrey and Dr. Bruce Perry. It's a book that's so thought-provoking, where readers become mesmerized and intrigued, having often been asked the question, what's wrong with you? And now we're posing the question, what happened to you? For those of you that do not know me, I am Dr. Glenice Harris Wilson, Associate Professional Counselor, Pastoral Counselor, and Professional Coach, where I am the founder and CEO of Living Connected LLC. But today we're here because of the visionary Tierra Destiny Reed. She's the CEO of TDR Brands International. But here in the When Women Heal community, it's a safe haven where women find the support to grow, heal, and become empowered. Isn't that right, Tiffany?
absolutely.
Thank you so much. Tonight we have Tiffany Kelly Williams, and Tiffany is a lifestyle coach, a healthy lifestyle coach, author, educator, and speaker. Tiffany, welcome and congratulations on being our very first guest. We're
I'm
so
honored.
glad to have you.
I'm truly honored.
Tiffany, I want you to take just a moment and just tell us a little bit about what you're doing and all of the wonderful things that you have going on.
Oh, wow. Well, as you all know, I have Cooking Healthy with Tiffany, where I do go live weekly or now bi-weekly, sharing with the world easy ways to eat healthy because of course, from my own journey and working with my own clients in the past, sometimes eating healthy seems to be a daunting task. And so that's one of the things that I'm on a mission to, basically debunk that myth that it has to be hard because it doesn't. And so I do a lot of workshops around healthy eating. I just did one yesterday for actually an organization here in Atlanta called Girls of Excellence, a mentorship for girls, middle school and high school. Um, and I also have Fit Teach, which is one of my babies is dear to me because I'm an educator where I do a lot of work around self-care. Right now, working on a couple of projects for for the upcoming school year around self-care and doing workshops, trying to get back into schools, continue doing the monthly forums because they have been really helpful. And so those are the two things I've been kind of sitting between. And I'm actually working on a new course that's going to launch at some point this year.
Oh, wow.
I'm building a course right now, and I'm not I don't have the title yet, but it's still around centered around self-care, healthy eating. And so that's something that's in the works for the summer that I'm continuing to develop, along with working on my health coach certification, my nutrition coach certification.
Oh, wow.
So those are the things I have going on this summer. So I'm trying to, Fit Teach is kind of quiet now because school year is over. Cooking Up with Tiffany is going to go on a little break soon for as far as recording because I have some other stuff that's coming out with that. So right now, my biggest two projects is working on the new program, the new course, and getting my nutrition coach cert. So
Oh, wow. You are always doing such amazing, amazing things. And Tiffany, I've been knowing you for some years. And just looking back and seeing where you are now, you have just skyrocketed. You've just taken it to a whole nother level. How long have you been a member of When Women Heal?
I think I've been a member now, maybe a year. I want to say a year. Yeah, close to a year now, I think.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
It's so funny because people see you, right? They see this woman of power, this woman of beauty, of success. They see you as an educator. They see you from a spiritual standpoint. They see you doing amazing things in your church. And a lot of times when people see all of this on the outside, sometimes you wonder if people think you were born like this. Okay, I'm born, here I am, right?
Right.
But not realizing a lot of times what happens with people as they go through life. And speaking of that, reading the book, What Happened to You. I don't know about you, but when I started reading it, um, something in my stomach, right? I felt like a wrench was turning in my stomach. Um, and I was mesmerized by the association of my life journey. We are people that, as the book states, our minds start to develop very, very, very early. And depending upon our experiences, whether they're good, bad, or indifferent, it determines how we think, feel, and react through our life. And if it's not the best, then, sometimes things happen to kind of shake us into, oh, something's wrong and I need to do something about this, right? And so, but for you, Tiffany, when you first started reading, what happened to you? How did you associate that with yourself?
Well, I started listening on Audible yesterday. I'm in the first chapter. But the biggest thing that stood out to me was the statement that, things that we experience when we're younger or different traumas, um, they shape who we are today.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I heard that, I was in the car yesterday, I was, and I was like, wow, it's deep, because it reminds me of almost like the discussions that we had during the When Women Heal Summit. And it, reflect. I think that's when, like, and then, of course, I'm in a mentorship program with my doctor, and so, like, a lot of things that have been, it's like everything is kind of like coming together, like it's connecting. And
Oh,
so,
wow.
yes, that's a connecting. So I thought about how people always see me as, girl, you always together. Your hair is always done. Your eyebrows is on fleek. Your and all that. But so as I heard this yesterday, I had to reflect on, well, why am I like that? Like, what has made me like this, as far as, like, always very concerned about how I look, um how I leave my house. Like, I'm not a bonnet girl. You will never see me in a bonnet.
Me either. Me either.
Bonnet, pajamas, house shoes,
Yes.
never gonna see that. So but I thought about, I went back to my childhood, because, like I said, I was listening to the audio, and I went back to middle school. Middle school was a very interesting time for me, because on one end, because I had a very unique childhood. My father was, he was at one time a millionaire, before he passed away years ago. My father had several businesses in New York. He owned a laundromat, a dry cleaners, a catering hall where we had wedding receptions, birthday parties. He owned commercial rental properties. At one time, he actually owned two dry cleaners that were on different blocks. So in our area in Brooklyn, he actually owned a block and a half worth of property. He owned 3 apartment buildings, um, two 6-family buildings, and 1 4-family building, and I was responsible for a lot of that at a very young age. And so I ran those businesses from, like, maybe 15 years old. I started out as at 8 years old making pants hangers, and worked my way up in the cleaners to where I knew how to work everything. And then, working for him in his laundromat. And so at home and in my church, I was very active. So I was a superstar, on that side. But in school, it was a different story. In school, for example, middle school is when things started to change. I went to private school, so I went to school that was like kindergarten through 8th grade, and around like 6th, 7th grade is when things start to shift for me. So, for example, I was always an honor student. Did really well in school, and of course, we wore uniforms. My mom always bought me the best shoes, because I had actually, my ankles were like, and my feet used to be turned in. Like, so my mother spent a lot of money. We were actually clowning about this yesterday, because she gifted me with a new pair of sneakers. And so, because they were special sneakers, because I have still make sure my ankles stay secure. But the biggest thing was that during that time, I wore very expensive shoes, because she wanted to make sure that my ankles were corrected. And some of my shoes were fancy. They were orthopedic shoes. Some of them were very fancy, because my mother grew up with issues with, not having shoes and wearing hand-me-downs and things like that. So she always wanted to wear the best. Plus she was tall. My mother is 6'2". And so, and so, so basically she wanted me to have the best. So in Catholic school, we wore uniforms. So the only thing that differentiated me was the fact that my shoes were always different. And so I always looked good. My mother always presented me well because of her own experiences. So she always wanted me to have the best when I came to school. And so, but I also was very smart. So what ended up starting to happen was there was a group of girls who actually bullied me. So I was bullied in middle school. They talked at that time. I had an overbite. I didn't get braces until my 20s. So I had a severe overbite because I used to suck my thumb as a kid, and so they teased me every day. They called me like Bucky, Rabbit, you name it, they called me. And one of the biggest reasons why is because I was smart, and they would even like ask me for my homework and things like that, and the answers to questions on classwork, and so it was a traumatic experience going to school. On top of that, during that time, I also had a bedwetting issue, believe it or not. Even like 6th, 7th grade, I had an issue, and my mother would, she would wash me up in the morning, make sure I was smell good. But I guess it might have been a morning, maybe I wasn't 100%. And then they began to tease me saying I smelled like fish. And so like, it was like a constant, like every day, like, and it's not like now as I'm an educator. So, it's not like now where we actually, those are things that you have to, that you encourage students to report, because now those things are causing students to kill themselves and everything else. But at that time, that wasn't the case. So you just kind of deal with it, and I would come home and tell my mom. I would come home crying sometime about it. And so, but that also, those, it was very traumatic for me. So when it was time to go to high school, I actually, I also struggled a little bit with weight at that time. It wasn't as bad as it was later on, but I remember being in 8th grade and the doctor's telling my mother she's 130 something pounds. She's at her adult weight. She can't gain no more weight. And I'm just a kid. So, it's like, you don't know how to process that stuff. And so basically when it was time to go to high school, I could go to any private high school in Brooklyn, probably, or in the metro area because of my scores. But I chose to go to public high school. And my mother, the nun at the school who was the principal, she was livid because she felt like, they get kickbacks when kids it's like they feed you to different schools because of, one Catholic school to the next Catholic school. And I told her, I said, Mom, I'm going to public high school because I don't want to go to school with the same girls and guys anymore, because of what they did to me. And it was really sad because even during that time, I remember, there was a boy that liked me. And because the girl he was dating, even though he and I went to school from 2nd grade all the way up to 8th grade. And these young ladies came in later on, like during the middle school years. And he was dating one of the girls' cousin who used to bully me all the time. And I remember going to the junior prom and him, because we used to walk to the bus stop together some days, and he would say, well, he liked me, but he couldn't let that be known because of what would come after with the girls that he, were with. And so basically, he liked me, but he was almost embarrassed to let it be known that he liked me, even though I was smart, but I didn't fit the mold, So basically, that was the beginning of those feelings of men rejecting me, in a sense, I would say. Mm-hmm. And so basically I went to public high school and I started a whole new life.
So let me ask you a question, Tiffany, right here. Let me interject just for a moment and ask you something, because it sounds as though your image of home was such that everything is good at home. We're successful. We've got money. My father has businesses, right? What type? So your traumatic experiences actually didn't even start. You weren't introduced to that, not knowing what trauma meant at the time, of course, but you were not introduced to this uncomfortable feeling of people in social settings until you stepped into the school system. what type of parental support did you get from your parents during this time?
My mother was the best. Like, she was, even like to this day, like the stuff that she does, the support that she gave me, because like she went through something similar. Because like I said, she was really tall in high school. They teased her. She was very tall and she was very skinny. And so they teased her. My grandmother, she had really short hair, and my grandmother would curl that hair up, and it was just like she had a similar experience growing up. And so that's why for her, like, going to school with hand-me-down clothes and, shoes and things like that. So my mother kind of understood, and she would always protect me. So she would always make sure I had the best things. Like, she would always like figure out a way to get it. And it was been interesting because during that time, my father, I would say, my father and mother weren't married. So, but it was like I lived with both my parents almost, because I would go to school in the morning, and then I would come home to my father's businesses, and I would stay there until my mother got off from work, and then my mother would pick me up from there. We would go home. And so it was my brother and I. And so my father was very, he didn't really know what was going on, because my father was at the time building his businesses, and he, trying to build a legacy, and, he was all about work. So my father, it was kind of hard to have those kind of conversations with him, because it was mostly about what he needs you to do. I need you to do X, Y, and Z. I need you to, very task oriented. Do what I say, blah, 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 blah. Be down here at this time, blah, blah. So it was almost contractual kind of, it was like, he wasn't really like, I was just telling my, one of my friends, I said that, and part of that has also impacted who I am today too, because my father didn't have this. My father had the money to take us on family vacation, my brother and I, my sister, and take us, to Disney World and anything we could have went anywhere. But I don't have any memories at all of my father taking us on any type of vacation, but to drop us off in South Carolina for the summer at my grandmother's house.
And that's what I kind of want to look at, because you had one view of the world based upon how you were being treated at school, which was not nice. And then you had another view of the world in terms of what you saw in your home life. So, given all of that and trying to make that connection on what does my reality of the world really say? So, given that the detriment of your peers, how does that play into how you were able to start making sense of the world and knowing what do I need to separate and what do I not need to separate? I call that, in therapy, we call it mental filtering, where we have all of these thoughts up in our mind, right? We think about all these different things, but then we have to filter. As humans, we have a tendency to keep the negative and throw away the positive when we start to filter our thoughts through. Mm-hmm. And so for you, as you start to filter your thoughts about the world, how did you start to make sense of the world, the reality of the world?
I think for me, I realized that there were a lot of people out there who were mean. There were mean-spirited folks out there, jealous of you for no reason, kind of thing too. And I also felt like I had to establish my own place. So me making a decision not to go to private high school was me beginning to establish my own. I said, because I know everybody can't be like that. That was how I felt like. And so when I went to high school, I was fortunate to, when I started ninth grade, the school was separated for a while. So like the first year you only spent in one building where all your classes were on one floor with like a cohort of ninth graders, basically. And then the next year, all of us went to the main building where the 10th through 12th grade was. But during that first year of high school, I began to develop new relationships with a core of friends we are a good bit of them are still my friends today. So like basically I knew that, okay, this happened to me, but this is not, because again, outside of that, like at my home life, I had some really amazing friends. My friends they knew I had to work for my father. They would come to my father's laundromat and keep me company all day and play with me in the front of the laundromat while I worked, or at church, I was an usher. And so I had relationships on the junior usher board, and I spent time with my grandmother a lot. I was like, I'm the oldest out of 7 grandchildren on my mom's side.
Oh, wow.
So basically I had those good relationships that allowed me to see that this situation that happened, but it did have an effect on me, but it didn't ruin me to the point that I didn't want to connect with other people. So I knew how to differentiate because I had already had good experiences outside of that one. If that makes sense.
So now, given what happened to you as a child, and so we fast forward, and now here we are in this adult world. What has happened to you as an adult that you can connect to how you process the things that happened to you as a child?
I think one of the things is that I think it was talking about people pleasing.
Uh-huh.
So like I think like I know I'm better now than I used to be because now it's like, no, I'm not doing that. Like I'm good.
With no explanation,
Nah.
no reason
But I
other than
have those moments where I may try to explain, but I've gotten better with saying, you know what, I don't gotta explain that. I just don't want to go. The answer is no. But there was a big part of time where I did that because I was a people pleaser because I wanted to be accepted. I wanted to belong because during that time in middle school, I really felt like it was like, because it was like, it was very separated. So I felt like I just want to belong. And then I went through a situation in high school, for example, even though I had my core friends, but in high school, I remember in 10th grade, I lost all my hair in high school. And on top of that, I was already one of the bigger girls in my group. So I dealt with self-esteem issues too, because I'm the bigger girl in the group. Now I lost all my doggone hair. And then, once again, I had a situation where there was a boy who liked me, but I didn't fit the mold. He actually ended up dating a girl who was supposed to be my friend. And, it just was a lot. And so those experiences, basically, I got to a place where I was a people pleaser. I just want to belong. I just want to fit in. You go above and beyond for people. Sometimes if it meant even harming yourself and taking away from what you may have wanted to do. I got in a lot of relationships with men. I could write a whole book about that. Like people don't even know that part of me, except probably my core friends. But I had some really very traumatic experiences with men. I allowed myself to get in relationships with men because I just wanted somebody to really, I guess, love me, want me.
Once again, to accept you,
To
just
accept
like
me.
you wanted the little girls in school to accept you, you
Exactly.
continue to want to win over that acceptance.
Exactly. And when I graduated from high school, especially, I was like wearing a size like 22. I had really gained a lot of weight. But again, I was still a very bright student. I was an Arista, student. I was in the National Honor Society. I went to St. John's. When I got my degree. But one of my biggest areas of struggle for a very long was men. And then with friends, like I ended up finding really good core friends, and I held on to those friends because those friends, I didn't have to just people please them. We worked together as a team. We did things that was fun. But I would say some of that also trickled down into my relationship with my father, because my father was, like I said, very, wanting certain things done. I became the businesswoman I am probably and wanted to be an entrepreneur because of my dad. But I also wanted to please my dad because I wanted my dad to be proud of me, even though he was already probably proud. But it was like I always, you couldn't tell dad no. Let's just say that you couldn't tell him no. So it was like you just had to show up, and but in my early 20s, like early to mid 20s, people pleasing my dad and doing what he asked me to do, always trying to please him, always trying to run those businesses. It led to me getting sick. So like my father was the kind of person, like basically he was all about trying to build legacy. Again, his own experiences from his childhood. And so basically he was big on building these experiences for me, wanting me to help him with the businesses and things like that. And so what he would do is when I was like out of college, like around 22, he would leave for like months at a time, and I would run the whole enterprise by myself almost. We're talking about like when things break down, knowing who to call and make. So that's why how I am today, as far as being a problem solver, is because of the experiences I had running my father's businesses as a young adult and a teenager. And like I always have jokes about, my brother and I have jokes about this all the time. You know, we had a laundromat, and my father was cheap. Now he had money, but he was cheap. So like if you wanted something new, you're gonna have to work to get that money, because he ain't gonna just give it to you, you know. And so I remember, you know, it was a little Asian man would come fix our machines when they would break down. And my father was like, well, you better go over there and find out what he's doing and figure out how to work the machines, because we ain't gonna keep paying him. So my brother and I ended up learning how to fix commercial washing machines and dryers and laundromat. We also had to learn how to bleed boilers and reset them, and we weren't even 20 yet, you know, because but those things have shaped who I am. But it also made me someone who's I'm detail oriented. I'm very, headstrong, determined to do certain things, but I didn't learn balance. So a lot of my illnesses and things that happened to me down the line, I always contributed to the fact that my father didn't teach me balance, because my father didn't show me balance. Like I said, we didn't do family vacations. My father had the money to take us on vacation. We didn't do family downtime and just having fun. Everything we did was connected to business, pretty much. Unless I was with my mom, and my mom, we went to church, and we went on a trip to the amusement park through the church. But even with that, my father would hold that over my mother. Like, if we didn't come to work, he would tell my mother, well, I'm not going to pay their tuition, kind of thing. So like, cause, and so basically growing up, it was all about work. And so in around 24 years old or so, when I got out of college, even though I had my own job out of college, I still ran businesses for my father. So as I started my own career, like I started out as a case manager for HIV/AIDS clients. That later on in that same company I was a case worker for kinship foster care children. And I would leave that job and go to my father's businesses, or I would work for the council member later on, leave that job and go to my father's businesses. And I remember I think it was 2000, when I went to I had a new position where I was full-time now with the company, Airborne Express. I was going to become one of their new trainers on their equipment. And I was coming from a training session, and I felt like I was having a heart attack. And so, but I actually was having an anxiety attack. And they later on diagnosed me with a panic disorder. And it pretty much, when I look back on it now, because I'm educated on certain things because of current things that have happened to me. I think a lot of that happened because I had no balance. There were no boundaries. It was always, yes, dad, I'll do it. For my mom, because I was the one that was always responsible, it's yes, mom, I got it. If my grandmother was, yes, grandma, I'll do it. That's why I'm big on self-care, because there was no conversation about taking care of me.
So you worked hard in terms of your belief of what that self-fulfilling prophecy was, that I had to become and I had to be what my father expected me to be. And you worked hard at fulfilling that. And you worked so hard at it until actually the work life, not having that balance, is what took a toll on you physically. Because if you think about it, Tiffany, if you really, really think about it psychologically, I'm working all the time. And if you're working all the time, you can almost just thinking about that, just imagining that, you can pretty much feel your body tensing up. Just the thought behind that.
Yep.
And you're always, and it's that rhythm. You're always on the move to fulfill that work life. And it's the rhythm that you got. But then I don't have any place that I settle myself.
Yep.
So that work, that body of work is steady going, and it's steady moving, and it's steady rotating. And but then over here, I never sit back and catch my breath.
Never. There was never that.
So then it takes you over into this anxiety attack. And although there are a number of different myths, lies, and truths about anxiety, firsthand what's true and what not is true. How do you feel? Do you feel comfortable enough to share some of that with us?
Well, I do want to say that before this happened to me, about 2 months prior, I actually had a warning. I actually ended up coming from work one day, and I hyperventilated. I was coming from the job that I had before I went to airborne. And but now I know I was actually in stroke zone. Because when I walked in there, my pressure was 200 something over 100 something. Wow. And that was when I first got diagnosed with high blood pressure. I was 24 years old. And so so it's like I had a warning, but I kept going. I kept going. I kept going. I kept going. And to the point that I ended up being bedridden for 4 months. Couldn't drive, couldn't hardly walk, couldn't do anything but lay in my mother's bed and pray to God I get better. so like those things, like it just over time, and it took me a while to recover. It really did. It took me a while to recover. Yeah. Oh, wow. But what was the thing you had asked me? You said something you just asked me.
When you were going through, because people, like I said, there are myths, truths, and lies about this whole feeling of anxiety. So how were you able to really overcome what was good and what was not good in your healing process to basically balance your life in order to prevent episodes of your panic attacks?
It took me a long time, a very long time, because I actually, before I got sick, my mother was already, fussing with my father about getting me help, because I was running. My father had just renovated his the catering hall, and we had a lot of business. I would work Friday, Saturday, Sunday on top of my regular job, and sometimes we would have back-to-back events, and I was asking for an assistant, and he wouldn't get me one. And when I got sick and ended up being home in the bed, that's when he finally got one. And then later on, he ended up selling the business. But it took me a long time to find the balance. I did eventually start working on for that on that level. And then I think in the next year I ended up, because that's how I became an educator.
So did you and your dad ever have a conversation, heart to heart, and say, Dad, look, this is taking its toll on me? Do you understand what this whole issue?
Not really. Because I think when I got sick, that's when he was concerned. He was worried about me. And I think he kind of understood what was happening, but I don't really think he really understood, like, I've been asking for you to help me for a while, to get somebody in here to help me run this business. And I don't think he really understood. So I think over time, when he got the assistant to come in, and then later on selling it, that's when it kind of clicked for him. But I don't think he really understood that. And so in 2001, when I became an educator, that's kind of how I kind of broke away from it after a while. And then I only did a little bit of work here and there. But let me tell you how I really got my balance to a certain extent. 16 years ago this month, I moved to Atlanta. Like, I literally made a decision that I needed a new start. I had already had a bad relationship with someone. I was in a relationship with a guy who told many lies, broke my heart. And so I said, you know what? I'm so sick of this. This is like, I gotta go. And so my cousin had moved here. I came here to visit. I saw her home. I said, you need to tell me I can buy me a new house and on a teacher's salary and live like this? I'm out. And so I came down here. I had a job before I moved. I was in DeKalb County Schools. I went and did an interview. They hired me on the spot, and I was packing up to go. My father packed my truck up, got me a 18-wheeler, packed up my whole apartment in my mom's house, my Jeep and everything. I was gone. And that's when it first began. And from 2001 to 2005, I was on Paxil. You know what Paxil is, right? For right. Panic disorder, anxiety. Right. And when I moved here.
Let me ask you a question. Let me interject right there, if you don't mind, Tiffany. To be able to be so young and having to take that type of medication, and like you said, for people that don't know, it's for anxiety, panic attacks, so forth. How did it make you feel to have to take that kind of medicine so young?
I was really sad, but at the same time, because I was so sick, I just wanted to get well. So if that was the thing that was going to help me feel better, then it is what it is. I was already on a medication for high blood pressure. And when I look back on it now, we're so much in a better place now than we were before, because like there was no discussion on how to manage that. There was no discussion. I just kept eating. I'm like, okay, I got this medicine. I'm gonna keep eating, still doing the same, no change of habits. There was no discussion about meditating and journaling, none of that stuff back then. You know, the Paxil actually caused me to gain a large amount of weight. That was also on top of me already being a plus size woman. It was like that just added to it. And like, it was really hard. I had days where it didn't make me feel my best. And then after just leveled out. And when I moved here, I had one really bad episode of a panic attack when I first moved here. And I think that was my last one for a while. And I actually, that particular incident that happened, I said, you know what? I'm getting off this medicine. I'm gonna stop taking this medicine. I never forget it. I went to the Cobb County Library. I got me a book on anxiety, and it was called How to Manage Your Panic. I think that's what it was called. Mm-hmm. And I started reading, and I stopped taking that medicine. I never looked back. Wow. I never took another drop of it again. And I just started learning new things, how to manage. And it was like a lifestyle shift for me, because I remember being in South Lake Mall at that time, and I was walking through the mall and I was rushing. And I was like, Tiffany, why are you rushing? Mm-hmm. And it was because I was so used to, when I was in New York and I worked for my father, when I had to go do something for myself, like go to Rainbow Shops or go to the mall, it will usually be in between doing something for my dad. It will be either we got an event tonight, I got to get back to the club and open up doors for the people to come in and set up, or it would be I'm going to get supplies for the laundromat, so I'm in between getting back to the laundromat, so I'm rushing to get stuff for myself, but I got to get back to. So I'm walking through the mall, I'm just rushing. I'm like, girl, wait a minute, let's go down. I don't have to rush, because that's what I have nobody to worry about but myself right now. And I just started taking my time, learning my new place where I was staying, and enjoying the mall, because growing up, I didn't do stuff like that. There was no going to the mall with my friends. There was no going to the movie with my friends. There was no going to no parties really like that with my friends, because I was 15, 16, 17. I was working for my father. So I didn't know what that kind of fun was. Mm-hmm. And so when I got here, I began to live when I moved here 16 years ago. I began to enjoy life a little bit. But I will tell you that when you're so groomed to do things a certain way, it's only about a matter of time when it comes back around again. So like within the first year here, I had a tutoring company. I'm learning the business again. I'm tutoring kids, and I'm coming home late, and I'm going to my regular job, and I'm coming back to go work for my father. Work for my work for my business, and I'm doing this, I'm doing that. And I remember, and I was working for, I did some Saturday school with Georgia State, and I'm getting up in the morning on my Saturdays, and because that was my norm. Because when I was working for my dad, I would open a laundromat at 7:00 in the morning on a Saturday before I was 20. And so it was my norm to do stuff like that. And so I remember, even like now, I have moments where like, I may not do anything.
I was going to ask you that. I was going to ask you because, it's so easy. People hear the term relapse, right? And they always associate relapse to drug and alcohol. Mm-hmm. You can relapse in any unhealthy behavior or lifestyle.
Yeah.
Now that you are this happily married woman, and balance is really important now, what do you do to keep from relapsing back into that 24/7 work mode?
I'm better now than I used to be. And it's not easy, because what I do now, like I'll have days where like I don't do nothing. I may have a day where like I give you a good example. Yesterday, I did work yesterday. I went to give service to a nonprofit organization for girls, doing a workshop on healthy eating. When I left there, I went to go pick up my new sneakers that my mother bought me. And when I was in the conference, one of my friends called me. She's like a sister to me, a little sister to me. She said, "Hey, Tiffany, I want to go get some stuff in my bathroom. I want to redecorate." And I haven't seen her since before the pandemic, because we couldn't come together, right? And her children are my godchildren. I haven't seen them in over a year. And so I was like, you know what? I'm not going home to do no work today. I came home, I changed my clothes, I put on my comfy shoes. I got in my car to go get my sneakers, and I went to her house. And after I got to her house, we got in her car with the kids, and We went to the store to go shopping and look at stuff. And I took my time. I didn't get home until 11 o'clock last night.
You know, Tiffany, a lot of times when we look at anxiety, um, I'm one that believe in how do you think what you think? What makes you think what you think? You know, in therapy, we use what they call cognitive behavior therapy, where it's all about think, feel, and behave, right? I noticed that on your wall with anxiety, of course, I wonder how much of that comes from how you think of what you think about things
Mm-hmm.
and how do you process, you know. I noticed on your wall you have be kind to your mind. What does that mean to you?
Be kind to your mind means to me, I'm very careful now how I talk to myself. Um, I'm careful, like especially like the last year, I was, my perception is everything. Everybody's not against you, like not thinking the worst of someone. Like a friend of mine was like shocked today because I was sharing with her, like, girl, I've been calling you since blah, blah, blah. Like, like, what's wrong with your phone? And so she was like, you know what, Tiffany? She said, I feel so bad. I apologize to you for not calling. She said, you know what? The average person friend would have been mad and wouldn't even call me back. And I said, because she said, I don't know. She said, the last message I have from you is February. I've been texting her since May, like April, May, whatever. And so I said, I said, I couldn't get mad. I said, because I figured maybe you were busy or, you got the baby. Like perception is everything. Like, so I didn't say, not only that, because I know her as my good friend, I know that we don't have a bad relationship. So I didn't assume the worst because sometimes when we assume the worst, it messes with your mind as well. And so I'm trying my best. I do my best to stay in the positive zone.
Mm-hmm.
So I try to say positive things to myself. I try my best to not think the worst of people. Like my mom, she does that a lot. I have to check her. Like, mom, no, why do you don't know that? Don't assume. So I try my best not to assume certain things unless I have factual information. And so those are things that help me to be kind to my mind. And because like my father, when I was couple years ago before my father passed, I was really dealing with a lot of that stuff because, you and not things you think about. Like, for example, when my father got really ill and I had to go care for him every summer between 2015 and 2019,
Mm-hmm.
18, yeah, 18, right, 18. So when I would go there, I couldn't leave for like almost a month or two, right? Depending on how long I stayed until his friend came back who was his caretaker. And while I was there, it was hard because as every year I would go, it would progress. It would get worse. His dementia got worse and worse and worse to the point that I was washing him up, cleaning defecation from off the floor in the house and all that kind of stuff. And I would cry every single visit.
Mm.
And I think part of that was because in my mind, it reminded me of as a kid when I couldn't go out to play. So here I am an adult. I want to live my best life. I want to enjoy my summer. I want to just do me. I want to date and go on a trip, go travel, whatever, do my business, whatever it is. And I'm here taking care of my father. And I had to like, Lord, forgive me for feeling this way because I know that my father did a lot for me, but there was a part in my mind where I felt like, here I am again, can't enjoy my life again. Here I am again, I can't have fun. So that's the thing, that's the word I always use. I can't have fun. I couldn't go out and play because I'm stuck doing X, Y, and Z. But it got better for me towards the last year or so because I began to say, Tiffany, this is temporary. I had to start changing what I was telling myself. I had to say, Tiffany, you're not going to cry this week. You're not going to cry today. Like I had to start saying certain things that helped me to cope with it better.
So you had to really break negative thinking patterns because we learn that over time in our own personal experiences. And so you had to break that negative thinking, that faulty thinking, because it really could have put you in a place where you may not have provided the care that you really want to provide, because then you start that selfish kind of thinking. Your mind, what do they say? The mind is a terrible thing to waste, but the mind is so powerful. You have to be careful how you process your thought because it can either make you, break you, or it can take you higher or take you lower.
Yeah, exactly. And what helped me the most, I think, during that time was I had a really good support system. My mom, like one of my dad's close friends, I would talk to her. My friends, my close, like my best friends, like I did, like they would video chat me at my dad's house. I'd be crying on the phone to them, like, like just the things I was feeling, but they allowed me to share, and then they would give me words, they would fill me back up. So like if I was feeling low, they would say things to build me back up, to help me be okay. And I remember like towards the end, when the summer I stayed there, where my father couldn't really wash himself. You couldn't get him in a bathtub to wash. So I had to get creative. And I remember one day I was like the days when I was standing at the sink to wash him. And what kept me sane, trying to wash up your father, like that ain't easy. And you don't want to see certain things, and so it was like all I kept thinking about was all the amazing things my father did for me, and how like the house that I'm in today is because of my father. So like I had to go back and think about all the things I was grateful for him. And that's what kept me like really in a place of gratitude and servitude, like serving him, like even cooking his meals, like making sure he had good meals. Like I would make sure he would set a little bar in the morning. I would cook because I had to stay in a positive space. Like this is the man that cared for me. This is the man who did everything he could to make sure that I had better than what he had. So this is the least I could do. Even though,
Tiffany, even though there were things that happened to you, right? There were things that happened to you. What's that part of yourself that allowed you to really process these things? Because you did an exceptional good job. Although you had your battles of anxiety and panic attacks, you processed it so well and in a place of good health. What was that part in you, do you think, that helped you to process this so well? Because so many people that are caretakers or children of ill parents don't process it like this, right? What do you feel helped you to process it in such a healthy manner?
I think because I knew that my father loved me. My father that was just because he was so hell bent on succeeding in life, because he wanted better for us than what he had growing up.
And that was one question I was going to ask early on. It makes you wonder, because he was so sold out and making sure you understood the value behind work, the value behind hard work. It makes you say, after reading this book, it makes you say, what happened to him?
Right. And I think what helped me too is because I know a little bit about what happened to him.
Wow.
Because I know that my father was the oldest son out of, I think it was 9 of them.
It was probably survival, huh?
And so my grandfather was a truck driver. So from what I understand, he was, because my grandfather died the year I was born, pretty much. So I never knew my grandfather. And so my grandfather was away a lot. So I guess he must have drove over the road, like, so he was away a lot. So my father was like the head of the household. He took care of my grandmother. He made sure that, everybody under him, all this, even though I had 2 aunts who were older than him, but he was the oldest boy. So he took care of the household. So all he knew was he had to work. He had to make sure everybody was taken care of. And he was big on building legacy and helping his community. And so because I knew that he only wanted, and he would talk to me, he would say, look, Tiffany, I just want the best for you. He would give me those words of wisdom, he would drop those little nuggets, and he would, look out for me and things like that, to make sure that I understood that I just want you to understand, because you're gonna have to do this for yourself one day. And so that's kind of what helped me to really understand, because for a long time, even as a kid running those businesses, I enjoyed it. I didn't see anything wrong with it. It was only until I got older that I was like, one doggone thing, I'm tired. Like, and my mother would be mad because she was like, those kids need a break, and he was like, and he would start saying, you gonna pay their tuition, kind of thing. And so, but I just knew that, what I did helped my father in a sense. Like when my father, with this house, for example, my father gave me a huge cash down payment on this house. And he said, these are for all the years that you worked and you never complained
Wow.
and you always showed up.
Wow. Wow.
He used to call me his right hand and his left hand. That's what he told me. And like, because my sister, she was raised by my grandmother. She's from my father, someone else. That's a whole other story by itself. And so I was the one that he knew would show up and I would do my best always. And I followed the rules, anything he want me to do. My brother would be in the park playing and get in trouble. I was the one, I would still be right there where he told me to be. I would never go against the grain. And so that's why he always would reward me. He always made sure I had certain things because I was the one that would never leave him hanging. He could always count on me to be there.
Let me
So
let me ask you a question, Tiffany. With all of this that you have going on, right? You you are a role model in your church. You are an educator. All that you have learned over time, what is it that you would share with the younger generation?
um, well, just like yesterday when I did that workshop with those middle school and high school girls, I talked really big about taking care of themselves. The younger generation, I want them to understand how important it is to really have that balance. I want the younger generation to understand to have fun safely, enjoy being a kid, enjoy going to the mall, enjoy those things that you cannot enjoy when you get older. Like those little memories, you can't get that later on. And so I would say enjoy being a kid. Definitely have balance. Eat well, exercise, because your future self is going to thank you later. Because hadn't I known that, I don't think I would be where I am today. And I think that that's very important. And the other piece is also definitely look look at what you're doing as far as no as far as entrepreneurship. I think it's very important in these days and times. Just because you may have not grown up with a parent that was an entrepreneur doesn't mean you can't be one right now.
Wow.
And it doesn't have to be something major and big, but what you do now will develop later on into something huge. And so, if there's someone who's willing to mentor them, to be open to receive mentorship, be open to receive advice, be open to learn new things from someone who's been there already, so that way you will be successful down the line. Because the things that my father has taught me, even my mom has taught me, has really developed me who I am today. And even though it was not always the prettiest thing, but I'm grateful because everybody doesn't have that experience, you know.
Right. Wow, Tiffany, it has been so good for us to share. And I just love our community. Let's just take a second and see who all we've got tuning in with us. Tierra, of course. Let's see. Tanisha. Hi, Tanisha.
Tanisha.
Um, my cousin. Hi, Teresa. Sharon, my cousin. Uh, Keisha. Hi, Keisha. Marshall, my cousin. Denitris is with us from the community. Audrey, my cousin. Wow. Let's see who else we have. Leslie is with us. All of our sisters, Tiffany from the community are on here.
Oh.
Um, I want to ask you our last question. And your dishes that you prepare look amazing. Um, Out of all the wonderful things that you prepare, what's your favorite dish?
Ooh, that's a hard one. Oh, let's see. I would I would say one of my most favorite ones that I probably prepare the most is my banana berry protein pancakes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they're made from oatmeal. I probably make those more than anything else. And then the runner up with that one will probably be the fiesta rice. The fiesta rice, which is the one with the shrimp. You can put it with shrimp if you want to. You can make it black beans only with black beans and the rice and the vegetables in it. But I would say the banana berry protein pancakes is probably the one I make the most because they taste almost like real pancakes. Like as far as like how we usually make them from the box with the Aunt Jemima or whatever. But that's probably my most favorite recipe.
Let me tell you the cooking show that you did one day that I wanted what you had so bad. It was the day that you made all the tacos. I was
Oh,
like, oh my
now
God.
see, that's why I said it's hard. That's another favorite. Like I love, like I can do tacos almost every day.
You had all the tacos laid out and everything that went with those tacos. I was like, not only was it pretty, I was like, they look so
Wait,
good.
what did you say, Dr. Denise? You said pretty. So you
Yeah.
know, so Tiara has a joke. I love pretty food. Like, like, like.
The thing about it, your stuff is always colorful. It's always pretty. And I was like, how does she get hers to look like that? Only thing I have in mind are always tomatoes, lettuce, cheese, the same old, same old. And I was like, hers was just laid out so pretty. And you had everything measured out. And I was like, Tiffany is like none other. Tell the people about your cookbook, the title of your cookbook, where they can get your cookbook, and a little bit about your cooking show.
Cool. And just to let you know, how the food piece, that gift is on both sides of my family, but it started with my father and his business. Because he used to do catering. And I used to do the, see, that's where it comes. See, you see how it's connected?
I cannot.
And I used to do the cold, my father could really cook well. And I used to do the cold preps, salads, and doctor up ones you buy from the store, make them taste really, authentic. That's what I used to do when I used to work under him and getting ready for an event, and so that's part of the gifting from my dad and my mom, because my mom is a cooks too. And so that's how Cooking Healthy kind of came about, because I actually just wanted to find healthier ways on my weight loss journey. As you know, I had a weight loss journey. I lost over 80 pounds naturally.
Wow.
And it was all connected to mindset shift, what I was telling myself, changing my eating habits, and posting certain things. People started asking me questions. So I started cooking every week live. And that's how Cooking Healthy with Tiffany got birthed. And because so many people asked about the food, they started asking about a cookbook. And I was like, cookbook? I'm not writing no cookbook. And so so I ended up writing this cookbook. The cookbook is called Cooking Healthy with Tiffany. It can be found at dare2loveyou.com, dare2loveyou.com. And pretty much I have the cooking show that's now going to be every other Wednesday, because I'm finding more balance. Mm-hmm. Because every week was a little bit taxing on me, and that means every single Wednesday I was giving up my Wednesdays, and I had to do something to have more balance for myself. So I brought it down to 2. So every other Wednesday, there's a Cooking Healthy with Tiffany show on my Facebook page. It's called Cooking Healthy with Tiffany. Or you can find me on YouTube, but a lot of people follow me on Facebook for it. And the cookbook, pretty much, I thought I had one over here, but I guess I don't. I usually have one sitting over here. But the cookbook is amazing. They send me pictures of food they cooked on a regular basis. I'll pull one real quick. Here we go. This is what it looks like.
Oh, wow. Fantastic. Tiffany, that's awesome.
And so people send recipes that they've cooked from the cookbook. And they tag me in photos, and I'm still shipping them out. I have a few left because I'm almost sold out again. And so I'm just grateful. Awesome. Just grateful.
Wow. I'm just amazed as always on your journey. And just Tiffany's story let people see what When Women Heal is about. And if it's anybody there, any woman out there that want to become more aware of their truth, want to become more confident, want to grow, want to heal, want to become more empowered, I would suggest that they look into the When Women Heal community. It's one of a kind, and we just believe that women have a place to become happy, healed, and whole. That's just my own personal take about where I am in the community. We love it. We love the sisterhood. And so, Tiffany, once again, thank you so much. Thank you for being our first of the 12 weeks guest. And we are just waiting to look at for so many other amazing things that you're going to be doing and you're going to be sharing.
Thank you so much. It's an honor to come to share. Thank you all and the When Women Heal community for allowing me to share tonight. Thank you, of course, to you, Dr. Denise, and Tiara. I love you, Tiara.
Yeah, thanks so much. And that's the whole thing. Tiara trusts us with her platform, and we want to just, give her her kudos, her thanks, her gratitude, because she did not have to ask or say yes to this part of her vision. So we're grateful. All right,
Absolutely.
Tiffany, thank you once again, and we will see you soon.
Yes.
All right, bye-bye.